Yo, what's good, Laker Nation? Listen, I've told you about Austin Reeves coming back like a man on fire. I've told you about Marcus Smart promising to make Houston's guards hate their lives tonight. And now I need to tell you about the third thing that happened at Crypto.com Arena today. And this one is different from the other two. This one isn't loud. This one isn't aggressive. This one is quiet. And honestly, the quiet one is the scariest of them all. Because about an hour before tip-off tonight, a small group of reporters was allowed into the arena for a brief pre-game availability, and they found LeBron James sitting alone on the Lakers bench. Not in the locker room, not in the training room, on the bench, in the empty arena, looking up at the championship banners hanging from the ceiling. And what he said when the ESPN microphone got close enough to pick up his voice is something that I think encapsulates everything about who LeBron James is at 41 years old, everything about what this series means to him, and everything about what Houston is about to face tonight in Game 5. So let me set the scene, because this one requires you to feel it, not just hear it. Picture this: the Crypto.com Arena, empty, about 90 minutes before tip-off. The court is freshly polished, the lights are at half brightness, and it's that eerie quiet that only an empty arena has, where every sound echoes and the space feels almost sacred. And sitting on the home bench in his full Lakers warm-up gear, alone, is LeBron James. He's not stretching, he's not on his phone, he's not talking to anyone, he's just sitting there, leaning back, looking up at the banners, at the retired numbers, at the championship flags, just staring. And a reporter from ESPN walking through the arena during the media window noticed him and slowly approached. She said, "LeBron, can I ask you a few questions before the game?" And LeBron didn't look away from the banners. He just said, "Yeah, go ahead." His voice was calm, not angry calm, not media-trained calm, but the deep, meditative calm of a man who has already decided what's going to happen tonight and is simply waiting for the clock to start. Hey, what's up everyone? Real quick before we get into everything, that like button is literally what determines if this reaches hundreds or thousands of fans. Takes 1 second, but makes a huge impact on the channel's growth. Just smash that like button right now. It's the easiest thing you can do, but honestly the biggest way to support this content. Every single like pushes this further, so hit it now. The reporter asked about Game 4, about the 10 points and 8 turnovers, about whether the criticism bothered him, and LeBron, still looking up at those banners, said, "I've been playing playoff basketball for 20 years. 20 years, I've played in the finals 10 times. I've won 4 championships. I've seen empires rise, and I've seen empires fall. I've had some of the greatest games in playoff history, and I've had some of the worst. Game 4 was one of the worst. I know that. I don't need Stephen A. Smith to tell me what I already know about myself. 10 points and 8 turnovers at this stage of my career in a playoff game, that's not acceptable, and I take full responsibility for it." He paused. "But here's what nobody in the media seems to understand about me, even after 23 years. A bad game doesn't define LeBron James. A bad game fuels LeBron James. Every great performance I've ever had in my career came after someone told me I was finished. After someone wrote the headline about Father Time, after someone decided that the king had finally abdicated the throne, and every single time, I reminded them why you don't write off a man who has been proving doubters wrong since he was 18 years old." He talked about LeBron with a reverence that was almost surprising coming from a guy as tough as Smart. He said, "People don't understand what it's like to share a locker room with LeBron James. They see the stat lines and the highlights, but they don't see what happens behind closed doors. They don't see him in the film room at midnight. They don't see him in the weight room at 6 a.m. They don't see him pulling young guys aside after practice and teaching them footwork and positioning and all the little details that have kept him elite for 23 years. Playing alongside that man, wearing the purple and gold in the same locker room as him, that's an honor. And I absolutely refuse to let his possibly last great playoff run end because I didn't give everything I had on the defensive end. If we lose this series, it's not gonna be because Marcus Smart didn't compete hard enough, I can promise you that." Then he made a specific promise about tonight that had me sitting up straight in my chair. He said, "Jalen Green had 28 points in Game 4. Amen Thompson had 19. Those numbers are not happening again. I'm telling you that right now." Those are not Game 5 numbers. Those are the Lakers were short-handed and we exploited it numbers. Tonight, with me and Austin on that perimeter, with our full defensive lineup available, Jalen Green is going to have the hardest night of his young career. And Amen Thompson is going to find out what it feels like to play against a defense that doesn't give you an inch. Not a single inch. Every dribble is going to be contested. Every passing lane is going to be clogged. Every attempt to get to the rim is going to be met with a wall of bodies. Houston scored 115 in Game 4. Tonight they're not getting to 95. Write that down. Then the reporter asked about Luka's absence and whether LeBron felt the pressure of carrying the team without his co-star. And for the first time, LeBron lowered his eyes from the banners and looked directly at the reporter. Luka being out hurts. There's no sugarcoating that. You know, he's one of the most talented players I've ever shared a court with, and not having him changes everything about how teams defend us. But let me tell you something about this roster that people are overlooking because they're so focused on who isn't playing. Austin Reeves is back tonight. The kid has been chomping at the bit for weeks, and from what I saw at shoot-around this morning, he's going to be a problem for Houston. Marcus Smart just had a historic Game 3 and is playing the best basketball of his career on the defensive end. DeAndre Ayton went on SportsCenter yesterday and told the world that he's about to dominate, and the fire in that man's eyes was real. Rui Hachimura has been solid all series. This is not a one-man team. This was never a one-man team, and Houston made a mistake in Game 4, thinking that if they took me out of the game, they'd win the series. They won one game. And it's going to be their last. And then LeBron said something that stopped me cold. He sat up on the bench, folded his hands together, and with a gravity in his voice that only comes from someone who has lived through more playoff moments than almost anyone in history, he said, "I made a promise to my son. Bronny is in that locker room right now getting ready for this game. My son. And I promised him when he was drafted, when he joined this team, that I would do everything in my power to win a championship with him. Not for him, with him. Father and son on the same court holding that trophy together. Do you understand what that means to me? Do you understand the magnitude of that dream? I've won 4 titles. I've broken every record. I've accomplished things that people said were impossible. But nothing in my entire career would compare to winning a championship with my son standing next to me. And I am not going to let a bad Game 4 performance take that away from me. I am not going to let Houston steal that dream. And I am not going to let anyone, any critic, any analyst, any talking head tell me that at 41 years old, I can't still be the best player on the court when it matters most. The reporter, visibly moved, asked the simple question, "What's going to happen tonight, LeBron?" And LeBron stood up from the bench. He stood up, not aggressively, not dramatically, just slowly, deliberately, like a man rising to address his kingdom. And he said, "Tonight, the Lakers are going to close this series. There will be no Game 6 in Houston. I am going to walk onto this court in front of our fans, in our building, and I am going to play the way I've played in every elimination scenario of my career, like a man who refuses to lose. I don't care if I score 40 or 20. I'm going to make the plays that win the game. I'm going to find Austin on the wing for open threes. I'm going to hit Ayton on the roll when Houston double teams. I'm going to find Smart in transition. I'm going to make every single decision on that court with one thought in my mind. We are not losing this game." Then he addressed Stephen A. and the age narrative one final time, and this is the part that's going to be played on every highlight show tomorrow morning. He said, "They say Father Time is undefeated. They've been saying it about me since I turned 35, then 36, then 37, then 38, 39, 40, and now 41. And every single year, I go out and do something that makes them push the timeline back another 12 months. At what point do they stop predicting my decline and start accepting my greatness? At what point does the narrative shift from LeBron is about to fall off to LeBron might never fall off? I'm serious. I'm setting records for points, rebounds, and assists by a player over 40 in the playoffs. I'm doing things that have literally never been done before at this age." And the response from the media is, "Yeah, but Game 4 was bad." One game out of 20 years of playoff excellence. And that's the story, that's the narrative. Come on, you're better than that. Or maybe you're not. Either way, I'll keep proving you wrong. And then the closing, the moment that gave me absolute chills. LeBron looked up at the banners one last time, reached up and touched the bottom of the nearest championship flag that was hanging from a pole near the bench, and said, This building has been waiting for another one of these. The fans have been waiting, the city has been waiting, and tonight we take the next step toward giving them what they deserve. I promised Bronny, I promised this city, I promised myself. The trophy is coming back to LA this year. And it starts with the destruction of Houston tonight. He turned and walked toward the tunnel without another word. The reporter stood there in the empty arena, surrounded by nothing but silence and the echo of LeBron's footsteps. And I'm sitting here thinking about the image of a 41-year-old man, alone on a bench in an empty arena, looking up at championship banners and promising his son that he's going to add another one. That's not content. That's not a soundbite. That's a father's promise. And in my experience covering this league, there is nothing more dangerous than LeBron James when he's playing for something bigger than basketball. So let me bring this all together for Laker Nation, because what happened today at Crypto.com Arena is unprecedented. 3 separate Lakers players, in 3 separate interviews, all made the same promise. Game 5 ends this series. Austin Reaves said he'd rather be carried off the court on a stretcher than watch from the bench for one more game. Marcus Smart guaranteed Houston's guards are going to have the worst night of their careers and won't score more than 95. And LeBron James, sitting alone in an empty arena, promised his son and his city that the trophy is coming home. That's not 3 players making bold statements. That's a team that has collectively decided that losing is not an option. That's a locker room that is unified in a way that only happens when the pressure of elimination, the pain of a bad loss, and the fire of disrespect all combine into something that is greater than any individual. Houston is walking into a building tonight where 18,000 fans are going to be insane, where Austin Reaves is playing hurt and angry, where Marcus Smart is wrapping his hands like a fighter, and where LeBron James is playing for his son. God help the Rockets. I want to hear from all of Laker Nation. Is tonight the night? Are the Lakers closing this out? Which pregame interview fired you up the most? Reaves, Smart, or LeBron? Drop it in the comments because I need to hear from y'all. Hit subscribe, smash the bell, because Game 5 is tonight, and I'll be right here with the post-game breakdown the moment it's over. 3 players, 3 promises, 1 goal. The crown still fits, and LeBron James is about to prove it in 48 minutes. Laker Nation, this is our night. I'll see y'all after the game. Peace.